Allison, here's something interesting. Before I started doing what I'm doing now in women's health, I actually had never even heard of this thing called prolapse. So even more specifically, pelvic floor prolapse, of course. Can you tell us what that is and walk us through it a little bit? Because I'm going to bet a lot of people are just like me and don't know anything about it.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to show the pelvic model just to give a. So to orient all of you, this is your pubic bone in the front. And if I turn this around, this is where your spine connects into your sacrum. So this is what we refer to as kind of the pelvic bowl. And if you think of it like a bowl, inside of it are your organs. So in this case, your entire GI system is removed, obviously, but it's our reproductive organs in here, being our uterus. And then we have our bladder in the front, and behind it is the rectum. So the muscles of the pelvic floor are all these red muscles. Some of them are more cylindrical that are going around the openings of the vaginal and the rectal and the urethral opening. And then the rest of them are a little flatter that do the lifting portion. And there is no bone here. There's just connective tissue, fascia, muscles, and they are a hammock of muscles just holding up all of these organs. So I'll take these organs out. So here they are: rectum in the back, uterus in the middle, and the bladder in the front. And a prolapse is when any of these organs begin to fall in a downward motion. And they most typically come out of the vaginal opening, and they don't have to necessarily come out. They can just start to kind of bulge into the vaginal opening. So upon a vaginal exam, we would feel some of that pressure. So when you do a vaginal exam, you would feel pressure coming from the back, like a softening where the rectum's coming, or you'd feel the cervix really low, and that would be the uterus starting to drop down, or you'd feel pressure from the front, which is the bladder. And our prolapses are graded on different levels. And the easiest way to explain it is like, if it's coming down a little bit, that's a grade 1. If it's coming down all the way to the vaginal opening, that's a grade 2. And past that is a grade 3. And there are a few different grading ways to grade it, but that's one of them. And what that, you can imagine, means is there's not enough integrity of the pelvic floor muscles to hold those organs up. And those muscles need to be strong enough, but they also need to be elastic enough to hold them up. And what you would feel if you're experiencing prolapse is typically a heaviness in the pelvic floor. Maybe after standing for a while, you would imagine gravity kind of pushing down, that you'd feel some heaviness. If the prolapse is actually starting to come out of the vaginal opening, some people describe it as like sitting on a tennis ball or a softball. You feel like there's something there that shouldn't be there. Having a difficult time using a tampon. If you use a tampon, like it doesn't feel quite the same. The route to push the tampon up, or the tampon doesn't stay in, it gets pushed out. Those are some of the most common symptoms that I hear. And then you can also have some pain with intercourse because of, the varying locations of that prolapse, or difficulty even having penetrative intercourse because of that. So that's kind of Prolapse 101.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Allison. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I remember after having my baby that things felt a little different down there. And I certainly had those issues with, like the tampon feeling weird or coming out very easily. So makes sense now. So thank you. That was super helpful and super informative.